Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me for my daily live stream. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic that's not getting a lot of media attention, and I'm going to explain why. I've been doing a deep dive into this so that you don't have to. In fact, I stayed up incredibly late last night because there is a lot of information. And I think I'm going to have to do maybe two or three parts here. Sorry, I have a bit of a dry throat as well. I think I'm coming down with something. So we're going to talk about the Nigerian genocide. And there are a few elements here to the Nigerian genocide that really need to be pointed out. First of all, we need to talk about why this is not in the media. We also need to talk about what exactly is happening. We also need to talk about why there are certain Islamists who are pushing really hard to deny the Nigerian genocide and pretend that it's not happening, or they're trying to pretend that there are other reasons behind this. And finally, we are going to talk about how and why the violence in Nigeria, specifically Islamic terrorists murdering Nigerian Christians, the link between that and the Middle East, because there is a very, very direct link. And it's not something that most people would automatically think about, not a link that most people would make, but there is a direct connection between the Muslim expansion in Nigeria and the Islamic Republic occupying Iran. Again, Iran is the country where I am from. And to put, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but also for those of you who might not believe me, those of you who might think that Goldie has no idea what she is talking about, here you go. Here is a photo. This was taken a few years ago. I'm not exactly sure when. I think it was maybe, early 2020s. Here's a photo of a Nigerian child. Okay, well, several Nigerian children actually, waving the flag of the Islamic Republic occupying Iran. And of course, they're stepping on Israel because that's what, Islamists and jihadis and terrorists do. And then you can see behind this child, I'm going to zoom in, behind this child, this other Nigerian child is holding a picture of Khamenei. Khamenei, as you may or may not know, is the current supreme dictator of the Islamic Republic that's occupying Iran. The flag you see behind me, that's the real flag of Iran, the lion and sun flag. The flag that this Nigerian child is holding, that's the flag of the terrorist Islamic Republic, which is occupying my country, and through their terrorist proxy forces, have colonized and occupied other countries as well, including Yemen, Lebanon. They have forces in Iraq. They have forces in Gaza. And their proxy groups extend as far as Nigeria. Because you guys have to remember, there is literally no reason for a child in Nigeria to be waving the flag of the Islamic Republic. Again, the Islamic Republic is the most brutal Islamofascist dictatorship. It's the most brutal dictatorship in the world, I would say. And of course, they have this Islamofascist jihadi ideology. So to everyone who was doubting as to whether or not there is a link between the Nigerian genocide happening right now, where Nigerian Muslims are murdering Christians, versus Islamic terrorism in the Middle East, there you go. And I will walk you through everything, starting from the beginning, until we get to this point here, because again, it makes absolutely no sense for Nigerian children to be holding pictures of the supreme dictator of the Islamic Republic. By the way, this guy murders Iranians, right? This guy has the blood of millions of Iranians on his hands, right? Why are Nigerian children holding his picture? So there is a direct link between the Middle East and the Nigerian genocide of Christians right now. So there you go. There's a sneak peek of where we are going to end up. But I want to take you back to the beginning. I want to take you back. I want to show you a few other images as well, because some of you might say, well, Goldie, what's your source for this? This is something that you tweeted yourself. So here you go. Here is a media outlet, a news media outlet showing Nigerian Muslims in occupied Iran. So these are like Muslim jihadi fanatics who were brought to occupied Iran by the Islamic Republic to participate in the Al-Quds Day rally. Okay, what is Al-Quds Day? Al-Quds Day is a fake jihadi celebration that was invented by the Islamic Republic in 1979. And basically, Al-Quds Day is all about celebrating anti-Semitism and Jew hate and the destruction of Israel, right? Al-Quds Day did not exist prior to 1979. So it is literally a fake jihadi holiday. And there is so little support for the Islamic Republic itself by Iranians inside of occupied Iran that the Islamic Republic literally has to bring in jihadis from other countries to participate in their jihadi, pro-Hamas demonstrations, because Iranians hate the Islamic Republic. They're trying to overthrow the Islamic Republic. Of course, the Islamic Republic, being a totalitarian dictatorship, they easily, murder Iranians, unfortunately. And even like these Nigerian Muslims here that are responsible for murdering Christians in Nigeria, they're also responsible for murdering Iranians who speak out in occupied Iran, because these are part of the Islamic Republic's militia groups, right? So just watch this, celebration of hate, right? Like jihadis from Nigeria are demonstrating in Al-Quds Day in the Islamic Republic, which is, of course, occupied Iran. Let me go to the beginning. Can you see the women? I mean, the last time I checked, by the way, this is not like cultural dress, right? Like this is not how women in Africa typically dress. Like this is a clear sign of Islamic colonization, right? Like everywhere the Islamic jihadis go and they colonize, you can easily tell which areas have been colonized because the women all dress the same, all in like the black shrouds. So watch these Nigerian Muslims in Iran dressed up like jihadis.
Nigeria. No surrender, no surrender, no surrender, no surrender.
Right, like look at that. Like all the like Nigerian jihadis are being flown into occupied Iran by the Islamic Republic to yell, free Palestine, which just goes to show like this is a jihadi Islamic cult, and it all points to the colonization by Islamic terrorism. And I will get into that, but I just want to show you guys. I want to let you know where we are heading to. And by the way, for anyone who thinks that I am lying or this is fake news, I have something else for you. The media outlets for the terrorist Islamic Republic itself have admitted that they have brought in Nigerian youth to attend the Quds Day rally in Tehran. Okay, so IRNA is, look at that, Islamic Republic News Agency, right? So it's not Iran's official news agency. It's been taken over by the Islamic Republic. So any media outlet that's coming from inside of occupied Iran is controlled by the Islamic Republic. So even the Islamic Republic itself is admitting that they are bringing in Nigerian Muslims into Iran to like celebrate the whole, you know, free Palestine jihadi nonsense, right? So you don't have to take it from me, even if you don't believe me. The Islamic Republic. Oh, and then here's again, like Nigerian nationals hold a morning procession in Tehran. Tehran is the here we go. Nigerian nationals hold a morning procession in Tehran to honor Imam Hussein and his companions. So again, the Islamic Republic is literally importing Nigerian jihadis into occupied Iran to, you know, engage in their jihadi parades and all that. So when I say that the Nigerian genocide is linked to Islamic terrorism in the Middle East, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like there have been signs for a very, very long time. And these people who are currently in occupied Iran brought there with the money of the Islamic Republic. These are the same ones who then go back to Nigeria and then they're murdering Christians in the name of Allah and Islam and, you know, their Islamic jihad. Here, watch this.
مسیر منتهی به هدم رژیم حسنی هستش و این عزاداری نیجریه‌های تهران هستش.
So the guy saying in Farsi, he's like, these are the Nigerians who are like doing this, right? These are the Islamic proxies. I mean, these are the proxy groups. This is the militia of the Islamic Republic. And so when, you know, myself and many other Iranians say to you that the Islamic Republic is not Iranian and the Islamic Republic is occupying Iran, this is what I'm referring to. Because as you can see, the vast majority of those who are part of the Islamic Republic, the vast majority of those who are affiliated with the Islamic Republic are not Iranian. The Islamic Republic is occupying Iran, and they're using Iranian money to fund their terrorism, not just in the Middle East, but around the world, right? And that's exactly what's happening in Nigeria right now. So I'm going to go back a little bit because I want to, for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with Nigeria and where it is. So here is Nigeria, okay? Here's Nigeria in the map of Africa. So you can see this is Nigeria over here. The Middle East is here, okay? And occupied Iran is right there. So there's, you know, a significant distance between the Islamic Republic, which is occupying Iran, and of course Nigeria, which is here. Here's where things get interesting, okay? So as you can see, this is a map of areas under Muslim rule at one point or another in history. So this is Iran right now because Iran is currently governed by the Islamic Republic, controlled by the Islamic Republic, under, or I should say, it's under occupation by the Islamic Republic. Here is Nigeria. The northern half of Nigeria is under Islamic rule. This right here, right? And then so, you know, at some point, you know, Spain was under Islamic rule as well. And then the Spaniards, you know, fought back and they reclaimed Spain. But this is showing a map of current and former. So Spain is no longer the, you know, it's not current, but it was at some point. But this is the Islamic colonial expansionism, right? So what I'm trying to get at is that and then keep this map in mind, okay? So what I'm trying to get at here is this border, this boundary in Nigeria that is dividing, you know, it's the dividing line between Islamic colonialism that relates directly to the current demographic in Nigeria. So again, remember that line, Islamic colonization line. Look at the divide the religious divide in Nigeria. The northern part is Islam, majority Islam. The southern part is majority Christianity. This aligns directly with that map. Okay, where's that map again? So this here aligns directly with the map of Islamic colonization, right? So what I'm trying to get at is that what you are currently seeing in Nigeria, okay, that is how Islam has expanded for the last 1400 years. Okay, so what's happening in Nigeria is nothing new. This is what happens. This is how Islam has expanded for the last 1400 years. And unfortunately, the Nigerians are, some of the most recent victims of this. And this is why the Christians are being massacred. And there are many, many Islamist outlets who were speaking about the fake genocide in Gaza, but who are now denying the very real genocide in Nigeria because it doesn't fit their narrative, right? Because they only want people to know about, anti-West imperialism or whatever nonsense, but they never talk about Islamic imperialism. They never talk about Islamic colonization because what's happening in Nigeria does not fit their narrative. So I want to play a video. I want to share it because now we're going to get into a little bit of a deep dive, and you're going to hear from Nigerians themselves about what's happening. And I'm telling you, they do not beat around the bush. They will just, we'll get right into it. But at least now that we're going to watch this, it gives you a little bit of an understanding as to how and why it's connected to Islamic terrorism in the Middle East. And then when we're done watching this, depending on how much time we have, we're going to go back and make that link. So here we go.
Surely, as we speak, Christians are under attack. The root cause of some of these problems that we're having in Nigeria, I mentioned that it is Sharia law that was introduced because...
Did you hear that? So he says right away, he says it was when Sharia law was introduced in Nigeria, that's what then resulted in all of the violence against the Christians.
Sharia facilitates violence. It is because of prayers that some of them are still alive. We thank God that the Western media is waking up to its responsibility to search its light on what is going on in Nigeria, and we thank the news nation. He should keep the pressure on Nigeria until the Nigerian government investigates the violence and make every Christian, every Nigerian feel safe in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, Christians, particularly in the northern and central regions, face extreme persecution due to escalating violence from Islamic militant groups, armed bandits, and discriminatory state laws, according to human rights experts. Indeed, many groups say that Nigeria remains one of the deadliest countries in the world for Christians. And according to aid groups, one in particular, Open Doors, in 2024, over 3,100 Christians were killed and 2,000 kidnapped. And aid groups say that in 2025, those numbers have increased. Now, this has become a political issue and a political argument here in the United States. Senator Ted Cruz, a Republican from Texas, has blamed officials in Nigeria for what he calls Christian massacres. And in 2025, Senator Cruz introduced introduced a bill called the Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act that would hold government leaders accountable. GOP Congressman Riley Moore is asking the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern from the State Department due to Christian persecution. And this issue is even spilled over into the world of pop culture. Bill Maher, a popular television host and comedian, recently accused the mainstream media of not paying enough attention to this issue, and he called it a genocide. So here at News Nation, we want to pay attention to all issues that, especially stories that have been ignored in the past. So today we are very happy to welcome somebody who is on the ground.
Isn't it crazy how someone in Nigeria who is speaking out against the Christian massacre of Nigerians by Nigerian Muslims, he has to basically hide his identity for his own safety? Like, that's how bad the situation is in Nigeria right now. And someone is asking, why is the government not stopping this? He will get into it. So we will hear from him himself as to why the government is not stopping this. And the answer, given what we know about how Islamists operate, the answer will not surprise you.
Nigeria, Jabez Musa. He lives and works in the middle belt of Nigeria as a lawyer serving vulnerable people. He's a member of the Nigerian Bar Association and is currently working on his PhD with a focus on tactics to improve good governance. He's worked in media, academia, and currently works as a human rights lawyer, serving Christian women and girls who have been abducted and forcefully married to get them to convert to Islam. While Jabez has not directly experienced violent persecution like most Christians in the north of Nigeria, he and his family, their lives have been in danger when a prominent Muslim is killed by acts of criminality and the Muslim community starts to threaten Christians and attack the, quote, infidels. So I'm so happy to welcome you, Jabez. Thank you so much for joining me here today on One Nation Under God on News Nation.
Thank you, Susie.
First off, let's start with sort of a snapshot of Nigerian society for Americans or people in our audience who may not know. Can you just give us a snapshot of what the religious landscape is in Nigeria? How many religions are there, and how many Nigerians are Christians?
Well, in a nutshell, thank you, Susie, for having me. In a nutshell, Nigeria is a multi-state nation with diverse cultural groups, ethnicities, different heritage, dynamic population, and a significant economy that impacts on the entire African continent. Nigeria is located in West Africa, maybe for Americans who may not know Nigeria very well. It is bordered by Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and Benin Republic.
So guys, again, like I was showing you, so the religious divide here is sort of split down the middle roughly, right? And so the top half is Islamic majority, the bottom half is Christian majority, and the Nigerian genocide is happening in the top half, right? Where the majority Muslims are massacring the Nigerian Christians. And, you know, this divide kind of aligns with the creeping Islamic colonization that started in the Middle East and is slowly creeping around the world, right? So Nigeria is sort of half and half right now. And the violence that we are experiencing there is part and parcel of Islamic colonization. That's exactly how they have been colonizing for the last 1400 years. I mean, it happened to Iran, it happened to Afghanistan, it happened, you know, to Spain even, right? Like, do you think Islamic colonization went to Spain with flowers and candy? No, they went to Spain with war and violence and death and destruction, and they had control of Spain for over 200 years before, or maybe more than that, before the Spaniards were able to fight back and reclaim Spain and turn it into a Christian country. So you are literally witnessing that jihad, that jihadist expansionism is happening before your very eyes in Nigeria right now.
And Nigeria got its independence in 1960 from Britain, and it has 36 states. Nigeria is 1/10 the size of the US, but in terms of population, it is about 2/3 of the US. It has a population of roughly 237 million people, with over 300 ethnic groups and over 500 distinct languages. And it has 6 geopolitical regions: the northwest, the northeast, the middle belt, which is north central. You have the north, the southwest, the southeast, and the south-south. That is how diverse Nigeria is. On the continental level, or globally, Nigeria is also nicknamed the Giant of Africa because of its substantial economic and cultural impact. And it is the largest economy in Africa and one of the world's largest oil producers. She is rich in crude oil and natural gas. It is considered as an emerging market with a projected top 10 global economy by 2050. Nigeria's diversity is expressed through a vast array of music, art, festival, and cuisine, and so on and so forth. Nigeria is number 6 on countries who are produce oil. And it is so complex with these diversities. And it is true, the summary of what you've said at your introduction. Nigeria's, stability is at a very crucial and critical point because of violence from the country, particularly in the northern part of the country itself. From the beginning.
So when he's speaking about violence in the northern part of the country, again, he's referring to the Muslim majority part of the country, right? So just as a quick reminder, this is the Muslim. Here we go. I have to remove this. Okay, no, I'll keep it. All right, we'll go back to it after.
Of the introduction of Sharia law in 1999, we started to see.
So let's go back a little bit. So he says after the introduction of Sharia law in 1999, okay, he's going to say we started seeing more violence there. So let me go back a little bit here because this part's really important.
Complex with these diversities, and it is true, the summary of what you've said at your introduction. Nigeria's, stability is at a very crucial and critical point because of violence from all over the country, particularly in the northern part of the country itself. From the beginning of the introduction of Sharia law in 1999, we started seeing how violence was emerging from almost all of the regions in northern Nigeria. For instance, we have been grappling with Boko Haram in the northeast. Boko Haram, by and the United Nations estimate of 2021, it had killed over 350,000, Nigerians or people, mostly Christians. And you recall the Chibok girl, for instance, who were kidnapped in 2014, and up till this moment as we speak, about 89 or 98 are still being held captive by Boko Haram. And you recall also the issue of Leah Sharibu, who was also abducted in 2018, and she was given a condition, though, that if she renounces her Christian faith, she will be released, for which she refused. And that was the reason why she was taken back to captivity. And the parents are still living in this nightmare. So, and if you go to the northwest, because each of these 3 regions in the northern part of Nigeria has its problems. If you go to the northwest, for instance, you have acts of banditry, okay, you have kidnapping, women are raped, youths are abducted and taken to farms, and particularly by the Fulani militants. Not all Fulanis are militants anyway. Some are very good. And as a matter of fact, in Nigeria, we still have a chunk of Fulani who are Christians. But the concern is with the militant Fulani. So you have them in the northwest who are doing these horrendous acts. And, the group there that is championing these acts, carrying out these acts, are known as the Lakurawa. The Lakurawa come from a tribe, from a place around somewhere in West Africa, around Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
So that's very interesting. So what he's saying is that these Islamic terrorist groups that are currently in northern Nigeria, a significant portion of them are not even Nigerian. They're coming from this tribe that is outside of Nigeria in like Maui or those places, right? So again, you're basically seeing the Islamist playbook, right, where they invade various countries and they take over. And that's exactly what happened to Iran in 1979 with the Islamic Republic. A vast majority of the Islamic Republic, like, they're not even Iranian, right? They're not Iranian, they're not from Iran, but they have occupied Iran since 1979, and they have been using the wealth and resources of Iran to expand their Islamic colonization, their Islamic terrorist colonization to various countries in the Middle East and also in Nigeria. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And for those of you who were with me from the beginning, I showed the direct link between the Islamic Republic occupying Iran and Nigeria. Of course, we will go back to that after this documentary. We will revisit that, because once I re-show you those videos and images, it will make more sense given what we're seeing here, and what this gentleman is describing about what's happening in Nigeria. And again, he has to keep his identity hidden, because if he reveals who he is, the Islamic terrorists in Nigeria will go after him and his family. Like, this is how bad the situation is in Nigeria right now.
They specialize in cross-border criminality, and so they cross to Nigeria, and then they link up with other bandits in the northwest, and they are carrying out these heinous attacks on people. They have been killed. And if you come to the Middle Belt, which is another region where Christians are predominantly inhabiting the region, you have the militant Fulanis again that are doing these heinous attacks. So this is where we are today. And the greatest challenge for Nigeria today, one of the challenges, is the insecurity or the violence in the Middle Belt. So this has been going on for over 20 years. Lives have gone, and as we speak, over 64 communities have been taken over by the militant Fulanis. Over 64. The inhabitants have either been killed, displaced, and they are living, with their relatives and unattended to. So, in summary, this is the picture of Nigeria, particularly the northern part of Nigeria, where violence is holding sway. So, this is one of the greatest challenges that we're having.
Jabez, let me ask you a more basic question. So my understanding is that the population of Nigeria is about half Muslim and half Christian. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
You're correct.
So it's about 50-50. And in the northern region is more Muslim in terms of inhabitants.
Yes.
And so that's why Christians face greater risk in the north, because there can be this friction between Muslims and Christians in the north. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, and just forgive my questions. We don't know a lot about Nigeria in the United States, so I apologize for that. But so the Fulani are Muslim. That's a Muslim ethnic group.
Predominantly are Muslims, but like I said, some are Christians.
There are Christians. Okay, thank you. I just need to clarify that for myself and for our audience. So let me just ask you point blank, are Christians under attack in Nigeria today?
surely, as we speak, Christians are under attack. Even last week in Plateau State, about 10 Christians were killed along Jos Abuja Road, the federal capital of Nigeria. And we understand from other speakers, spokesperson of the persecuted Christians, Fulani people, militants, are the ones who carried out the attacks. And like I said from the beginning, consistently it has been the Fulani, the militant Fulanis that have been carrying out the attacks in the Middle Belt. The Middle Belt is at the fault lines of the northern predominantly Muslims and the southern part of the country, which is predominantly inhabited by Christians.
So the Nigerian sort of demographic is divided into three parts, right? So you have the northern part, which is predominantly Muslim, and then you have the middle belt, which is sort of a mix between Christian and Muslim, and then you have the southern part, which is predominantly Christian. Although that portion, my understanding is that it is shrinking. So just a little info there.
This is the challenges. This is the violence that has been going on in the Middle Belt.
On a daily basis for Christians in Nigeria, what does their daily reality look like? Do they feel like they can't carry out their normal activities, or they can't practice their faith or go to church? Can you just describe the situation, the everyday life of a Christian in Nigeria?
Yeah, the situation is there. Because of the violence, you never can tell as Christian, you never can tell from which angle that the violence will come through to you. And they live in fear. They are very, very vulnerable. Sometimes they don't go to church because many churches are no longer existing. They have been burned down and destroyed here in the Middle Belt, and even in the northeast where Boko Haram is holding forth. And so there is fear in them because they have been intimidated. They are vulnerable to these attacks. So that is the life that Christians live here in Nigeria, particularly in the Middle Belt.
In the Middle Belt, okay. And is this, are they more vulnerable in smaller towns and more rural areas as opposed to cities or in larger urban areas?
Comparatively, I would say yes, because the village areas are more vulnerable. They are porous. Security is not as tight as it is in cities, and so they are exposed and are more vulnerable to attacks by the militant Fulanis. And for years, these attacks have been going on. Nigeria has local governments, like you have counties there in the United States. And, 2024, 2023, 2022, up to 2021, attacks have been going on. And in Bokos, it's a local government in Plateau State, 2023, Christmas Eve, about 200 Christians were attacked and slaughtered. Okay,
You never hear about that. I mean, I hear about it because I follow along with what's been happening, and with the Christian genocide in Nigeria, but you never really hear about it in the news. You never hear news media outlets talk about this. I mean, this past year alone, just in 2025, my understanding is that over 7,000 Nigerians have been massacred. Over 7,000 Christian Nigerians have been purposely slaughtered by the Islamic terrorists in Nigeria. So it is a very, very serious concern, right?
24, the same thing around April, Christian communities were also attacked. So, and in Mangu local government again, Christian communities were attacked and churches were burnt down. So the perpetration goes on and on and on and on and on.
And the government does not intervene or try to protect vulnerable Christian populations. What is the role of the government here in these situations?
Well, like I said, the northern part of the country is very open. There is weak governance in most part of the north. But of course, you see the military soldiers around, quite all right, that the government has sent to keep the peace. But what you have is that there is no effectiveness on the part of the security. There is no efficiency on their part. Survivors always tell you that when they are under attack, when they call the military may not either come, or when they come at all to for their rescue, they usually come late. So that has been the pattern consistently. So
that's really concerning. I feel like I need to dig into that and try to figure out why the government security forces, which are meant to protect the Christian Nigerians from being slaughtered, why do they consistently come late? Because that does seem to be a pattern. It's almost as if the government is just sort of turning away and ignoring what's happening in order to avoid dealing with the confrontation, right? And I have some theories on that, but I want to finish listening to what he has to say, because obviously, people who are in Nigeria and from Nigeria have a better understanding of this. My area of expertise is linking the Christian genocide to Islamic terrorism in the Middle East, which of course I kind of gave you guys a sneak peek at the beginning, but we will get back to that when we're done watching this video.
Explains the weakness of government.
Got it. Okay. And you mentioned that people are afraid to go to church. So obviously this impacts church attendance. How do church communities and church leaders handle this, knowing that their congregation may be attacked or killed when they come to church? How do they handle?
That's a good point. Ayatrolla. I like the username there, Ayatrolla. So you make a very good point. Nigeria does not fit the colonial, racist, genocider narrative, so you don't hear about it in the USA media, right? They can't fit that into their jihadi narrative.
Just the daily activity of each church community.
Well, most churches are inundated by victims or displaced persons from the communities. And normally what we do here is to call for help. People will donate either clothes, food, and even money to take care of them. The culture here, especially in the Middle Belt, is not that of people going to IDP camps per se. Some do go to live with their relatives, and so they take care of them. The churches take care of them. The churches are in the forefront actually for humanitarian activity. But again, most churches do run out of humanitarian services to render to the victims of this attack. So consistently, I know, like in my church, we have been called upon by pastors to donate and to take care of these victims, and we have done that from time to time. We continue to do it. But the situation calls for more assistance from well-spirited people, from organizations, and even international organizations, if they can come to the rescue or assistance of these people.
And do you consider it a genocide?
Well, many people have called the violence or the killings as a genocide, but I am being careful as a lawyer. I follow what the Open Doors International is, an international faith-based organization which prefers to use it as Christians are being uprooted from their communities rather than genocide.
That's BS. That's total BS, right? So this is what really frustrates me is the definition of genocide is very, very clear. Let me pull it up here because I wrote about this, right? And unfortunately, the last 2 years, all the jihadis have manipulated the definition of genocide, and they've made it so that people are confused about what it means. So let me be very clear about what genocide means. Where is it? Here we go. Genocide is the intentional destruction, in whole or in part, of a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group with the intention of replacing it. So this guy, he basically said it was genocide without using the word, because he's saying that there is a consistent intent to uproot the Christians from where they are located, right? I mean, that's how jihad operates. So, I mean, jihad is basically like genocide by Islamic colonialists, right? And that's what they've been doing for 1400 years. And now it's reached Nigeria. But because he's a lawyer, he wants to be extra careful with his words. But, as someone who, past former politician, former lawyer, I'm telling you, if you listen to him, he's basically saying it's genocide without using the word, because the very definition of genocide is when you uproot an ethnic or racial or religious group, right? Or you want to eradicate them. So let's just go back a little bit here.
I follow what the Open Doors International is, an international faith-based organization which prefers to use it as Christians are being uprooted from their communities rather than genocide. Yeah, in Nigeria today, as the debate is going on, because of the American, the bill that they have introduced to designate Nigeria as a CPC country, the debate is that, well, it is genocide, but some are saying it is not genocide. And for me, I take it that Christians are being uprooted from their communities.
Can I just press you there?
Ask yourself, why are Christians being uprooted from their communities? I have the answer, and we'll get to that after this video, but just keep that question in mind. Keep that statement in mind when he says Christians are being uprooted from their communities. Why? That's very important.
For a second, I understand being concerned and conscientious about the legal definition of genocide, but are Christians being killed for their faith in Nigeria, because of their faith, because they belong to the Christian community?
Yes, Christians in Nigeria are being.
Did you catch that? So she said, are Christians being killed in Nigeria because they are Christian? And he says, yes. Right away, he says, yes. That is genocide. That's genocide. So let's go back. Let's pay attention to that. So again, he's basically saying it's genocide without actually using the word, because all of the global organizations don't have the guts to call it genocide, even though when Hamas terrorists in Gaza are eradicated by Israel, all the Islamists are like, oh, genocide, right? But when it happens in Nigeria, everyone is silent. And in fact, Al Jazeera, which is the foreign mouthpiece of Qatar, by the way, Al Jazeera is banned in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Al Jazeera is even denying what's happening in Nigeria. But they were, easily go out and they paint all the Hamas terrorists as like, oh, like so-and-so is genocided. And it's like, but this is the the Islamist narrative. This is the Islamist colonial playbook that has been going on for 1400 years. So let's go back. We'll listen to that again. And she says, are Christians being murdered for their faith in Nigeria? And he says, yes.
The bill that they have introduced to designate Nigeria as a CPC country, the debate is that, well, it is genocide, but some are saying it is not genocide. And for me, I take it that Christians are being uprooted from their communities.
Can I just press you there for a second? I understand being concerned and conscientious about the legal definition of genocide, but are Christians being killed for their faith in Nigeria, because of their faith, because they belong to the Christian community?
Yes, Christians in Nigeria are being killed because of their faith. And
that's genocide. That is literally genocide right there.
We've seen here, the evidence on the ground is that when these attacks takes place, Christians are targeted. Like in the Middle Belt, there are a significant population of Muslims that are living side by side in some communities with the Christian communities. But during the attack, only Christian communities are targeted. So we have not seen where Muslim communities are targeted. But if a Muslim is killed, or if Muslims are killed, then it means that they have refused to follow their ideology, or in Islam they call it they are kafir, meaning that they have refused to subscribe to their ideology and they will be killed. But essentially in the Middle Belt and elsewhere, Christians are targeted because of their faith.
Tell us, what kind of testimony are you hearing from Christian congregations, from pastors who are targeted by these militants, in some cases Islamic militants?
A plethora of testimonies from survivors. And I have one here which is heart-wrenching. It is from Pastor Zachariah. His own happened during the attack in Bokos in 2003. Zachariah had been away, and when Islamists stormed his village, when he was able to return the next morning, because he couldn't sleep in his house, he saw bodies of victims of the attack along the road, littering the road. And he said, and I caught him, all I could see were burnt houses around, including my house, which was completely burnt down with everything inside. I searched to see if I could see or I could find my wife or children, but I could not find them. So I checked the rooms and went out, only to find their lifeless bodies in the kitchen hut outside. I was devastated. That day, I cried like never before. End quote. The pastor also described how his wife, he and his wife preached and opened churches together. He said, we did everything together. We walked hand in hand with each other. End quote. So this is the kind of testimonies you have from survivors of the attack. The testimonies are many. And these are some of the facts that we believe that the militants are the people who are attacking them and killing them.
That testimony is eerily reminiscent of what we heard during the Rwandan genocide.
Exactly. And you have it all over here in the Middle Belt.
So leaving aside for a second just the legal definition of genocide, it sounds by that account certainly that that it is a genocide.
Well, but we know that he had been uprooted from his ancestral community. His wife and children were killed, and so he found it difficult to survive or to live, because and many others who have been uprooted. And even in the Northeast, we have found videos. We've seen videos of some pastors, leaders of the Christian Association of Nigeria, who have been beheaded in Adamawa State, for instance. Yes.
That's insane. Like literally Christian leaders are being beheaded in Nigeria because they're Christian. And then you have all these Islamists who are saying there's no genocide in Nigeria. Like it makes me sick to my stomach how these Islamists are gaslighting the world into thinking that nothing is going on or everything is fine. Meanwhile, this is literally the playbook of Islamic terrorists. I mean, do we not remember what ISIS did to Christians in Iraq? ISIS beheaded Christians in Iraq. Like how quickly does the world forget how Islamic terrorists operate? It's the same MO everywhere in the world.
Back, he was kidnapped by the Boko Haram insurgents and taken to the bush, and he was beheaded. The video went viral. So these are some of the situations, and especially by survivors of the attack.
And Jabez, what can people here who are listening in the United States do to help?
Number one, to pray for Christians in Nigeria. We need their prayers dearly. All right. And secondly, they should speak to their representatives and to impress it on them that this is the kind of situation that Nigerians are going through, Christians especially. And perhaps from there, the leaders will now, because they're in government, they will pressurize the American government to also put pressure on the Nigerian government to find an end to the violence. And in line with that, we have the Open Doors International, an international faith-based organization. It has a body called Arise Africa, and they are collecting signatures. Arise Africa, its membership are mostly spokesperson for the persecuted Christians in Africa, and they are collecting signatures of these people, and to send a petition to the African Union and the United Nations for them to present at the General Assembly of the two bodies, and for these bodies to see what is actually going on in Nigeria, and for them also, since Nigeria is a member state of these two bodies, so that Nigeria will be called upon to act and put a stop to the killings.
Okay, so that's a petition that will be presented at the United Nations?
Yes, and it is intended to be presented at the end of next year, 2026.
So speaking, since you mentioned that, the bill and, trying to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, how do you feel that politicians in the United States are starting to raise the issue in the US Congress?
Well, not only me, but Christians in Nigeria, that is what they have been calling for, to have a situation where the international community will pressurize the Nigerian government to act on the killings that have been going on for years, for decades, all right? And the calls have been that Nigerian government should investigate the violence and, fish out the perpetrators and punish them to serve as a deterrence for others who may want to carry out these dastardly acts. But the Nigerian government has not been able to do that. And so Christians have been calling on the international community to talk to the Nigerian government, to pressure the Nigerian government to act swiftly to save lives.
And maybe you could just give us a sense in your own church community. You mentioned your own church. How does it affect the faith of the people? Obviously, you said that people are afraid to actually come to church, but how has this situation affected the faith of Christians in Nigeria?
Well, it has rather strengthened their faith, their resilience. We could see it. Even with the destruction of their churches, you still find Christians worshiping under the trees or under the ruins of the churches that have been destroyed. It has never slowed down, their trust in God. They believe that God, sooner than later, God would do something to rescue them from this violence. And
this is a part where I disagree, guys. Respectfully, if you put your faith in God, you're going to be eradicated because you're dealing with like a jihadi, Islamofascist, colonialist ideology where they literally believe that murdering infidels is the key to get into heaven, right? Like these Islamists who are murdering Christians and uprooting Christians are doing so because they believe it is their God-given right and duty, I should say Allah-given right and duty to conquer non-Islamic lands and turn it Islamic because that's their key to getting into heaven. So respectfully, when, someone like this gentleman here says, we're going to put our faith in God, that's not good enough Because those of us who are from the Middle East, who have experienced Islamic colonization, many of us have survived it, and now we're fighting back. It's not enough. It's not enough. Like these, you have to fight back. You have to speak out. Just, my thoughts on this.
They keep on, believing and, putting their faith in God that, yes, this calamity will sooner than later, leave them.
And what kind of help is useful from Western countries? What kind of aid and, what kind of intervention or, raising the issue? Like, how would you like to see the West help Nigerian Christians right now?
Okay, one, for Christians internationally, Nigerian Christians would want them to support them with their prayers. Here in Nigeria, Christians feel that if it were not for their prayers, the violence would have been greater, would have consumed them a long time ago. But it is because of prayers that some of them are still alive. That is number one. Number two, like I just said, Christians would want the international community, the US and some other Western powers to step in and force Nigeria to stop the violence. The Nigerian government can do.
So this is where he's also making a little bit of a mistake here, because you're not going to be able to stop the violence in Nigeria until you get to the core of the violence, until you get to the reason for the violence in Nigeria. And the reason that there's violence in Nigeria is because it goes back to the Islamic Republic, which is occupying Iran. I have an article that I want to share with you. Let me just see what, okay, I'm at 2931 here. So since we're here, I want to share an article because this will, like, guys, this will blow your minds, right? Like, this is what I'm trying to explain, is that if you want peace, you have to identify the root cause of the violence so that you can deal with the root cause, you can eradicate the root cause of violence, and then you can get peace. If you just only look at what's happening in Nigeria and think that's it, it's like an isolated incident, you're going to have a very bad time. And I'll explain to you why. And, all of this is stuff that is publicly available on the internet. You just have to know where to look. So you see this? So here, that is the supreme dictator of the Islamic Republic, Khamenei. And here is Nigeria's Shiite leader, Sheikh Ibrahim Yaqub el-Zakzaki or whatever. And you know when this is? This is Tehran. Okay, that's the capital of Iran. This is Tehran. And this is October 14, 2023. Do you see that? October 14th. So this photo was taken 1 week after the genocidal massacre of over 1,200 Israelis in Israel by Islamic terrorists, right? So 1 week later, these two evil men are meeting in Tehran. So when I say that the violence in Nigeria is linked to Islamic terrorism, this is what I'm talking about right here. Everything is before you. You just have to connect the dots. But wait, it gets even worse. I'm going to read the article for you, okay? So the article says, Iran's supreme leader, I hate to say Iran, I prefer Islamic Republic because I'm Iranian. That is my flag. That's the flag of Iran. That guy, he's the leader of the Islamic Republic, which is a terrorist group that's occupying Iran, right? So the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, has rallied Nigeria's Shiite leader on a visit to Tehran. Listen to this. Hailing the expansion of Shiite Islam and rallying for Palestine. The expansion of Shiite Islam. Does that remind you of anything? Does that remind you of what that gentleman was saying in his interview about Christians in Nigeria being uprooted, about Christians in Nigeria being massacred just because they are Christian? What do you think expansion of Shiite Islam looks like? Do you think that these people are going to come to your doors, knock on your doors, bring, pamphlets and chocolate and candy and be like, "Oh, hello, here's a brochure about Shiite Islam. Please take a look, and we'll come back tomorrow. And if you agree, you can join us." No, this is, they're literally bragging about how they came together, how they literally met for the purpose of discussing how to expand Shiite Islam in Nigeria, right? So there is the link directly, right? And again, Khamenei, right, the Islamic regime, this guy and his sycophants, they are a terrorist organization. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is a designated terrorist group in various countries, okay? So let me continue reading. This. So in a meeting with Sheikh Ibrahim Yaqub el-Zakzaki, Khamenei told him, listen to this, the Islamic movement is expanding in Africa, Europe, and North America, rallying the world's Shiite population. Is it any simpler than, can I make it any more simple than that? Right? Like these evil people, these Islamic terrorists are literally meeting to talk about how to expand Shiite Islam in Africa, in Europe, in North America, right? So here, let's read further. Zakzaki leads the Islamic movement in Nigeria, a movement inspired by the Iranian Revolution. Do you see that? The Iranian Revolution. So it should be the Islamic Revolution, right? But again, another piece of evidence that links the current violence in Nigeria with Islamic terrorism in the Middle East, right? Like they are admitting the guy who leads the Islamic movement in Nigeria is admitting that they have been inspired by the 1979 Islamic Revolution. They want to take over Nigeria. They want to turn Nigeria into a Muslim country that is governed by Sharia law. And that's why they feel justified in genociding the Nigerian Christian population so that they can take over. Like they are telling you to your faces exactly who they are, what they are planning on doing, and where the link is to Islamic terrorism in the Middle East. Let's continue. So, Zakzaki leads the Islamic movement in Nigeria, a movement inspired by the Iranian Revolution that rejects Nigerian government authority. That sounds exactly like what happened in 1979 when the Islamists, right, when the Islamist movement began, they rejected the authority of the government at the time, the Shahanshah government, and then they brought in their own jihadi Islamic Sharia law government that turned Iran into a 7th century Islamic hellhole. It's literally the exact same ideology. The movement is inspired by the Iranian Revolution and rejects Nigerian government authority. Known as Nigeria's Ayatollah, so basically like this guy here, okay? This guy is like, I guess, the Nigerian version of Khamenei, right? Like they basically want to recreate the Islamic Revolution in Nigeria, and that's why they're murdering Nigerian Christians. All right, so let's continue. Zakzaki leads known as Nigeria's Ayatollah, the outspoken cleric has been imprisoned for a range of charges, including murder, culpable homicide, unlawful assembly, and disruption of public peace as the government tries to quash the revolutionary movement. The guy has been literally been imprisoned for murder, right? He's been imprisoned for murder, and somehow he's like the spiritual leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria. Like that's insane. But again, this is how Islamists operate, right? Like they they glorify martyrdom and death, and for them, murdering infidels, right, murdering non-Muslims is the quickest way to get into heaven. So let's continue. Here's Khamenei. So he says, I hope you will be able to continue your fight, said Khamenei, who backs Zakzaki's campaign to expand Shiite Islam in Nigeria, where while around 50% of the country is Muslim, the majority is Sunni. While Iran supports Nigeria's Islamic movement, the regime also needs the support of the Nigerian government. Last month's energy talks discussing cooperation to combat energy challenges. Isn't that interesting? So this guy, okay, this guy is basically an enemy of the Nigerian government. The Islamic Republic is meeting with them, right? Like the Islamic Republic is basically supporting the Islamists and helping them to overthrow the Nigerian government, but then, you know, they still have to play nice with the Nigerian government while it's still there. This is Takia, guys. This is how these people operate. It's the same way that the Islamic Republic, for example, has been dealing with the United States, where on one hand, you know, they will literally put out statements and AI videos of them assassinating President Trump. But then on the other hand, they'll come and be like, oh, no, we have no fight with America. You know, when we yell death to America, we don't really mean death to America, right? Like they're trying to trick you. They want you to think that they're not involved. And then at the last minute, they basically come and destabilize your country, right? It's what happened in Iran with the Islamic Republic. It's what happened in Lebanon. Yemen, no one's talking about Yemen right now. No one's talking about the fact that there is a famine going on in Yemen right now. And Yemen has been, you know, in a civil war because of the Islamists there. You know, of course, you have the Islamists in Gaza as well. You have them in Iraq and Nigeria, right? And these are just some of the countries. I haven't even mentioned a whole bunch of other countries, right? Like right now, today, we're just focusing on Nigeria. So when I say that there is a link between the Nigerian genocide of Christians, there's a link between that and the Islamic Republic of Iran. In Iran, this is what I'm referring to. I'm referring to that jihadi Islamic colonialist mindset, right? Like this is a dangerous ideology. It ruined Iran and now it's expanding. Like these two clerics literally met 2 years ago in order to discuss how to expand Shiite Islam in Nigeria and basically turn Nigeria into a Sharia-controlled state, right? Like this guy, right? His movement clearly says rejects Nigerian government authority. I mean, what more do you guys need? What more proof do you need that Islamic terrorism is directly linked to this colonialist expansion, right? Anyways, let's go back and finish watching that video. But this is, you know, this is what I would say is the mistake.
Perhaps
the mistake that this gentleman makes is he fails to recognize or perhaps acknowledge the link between the Islamic Republic of, you know, occupying Iran. He fails to acknowledge the link between the Islamic Republic occupying Iran and Muslims massacring Christians in Nigeria, because there is a direct link.
for certain political reasons, which we don't know, are not ready to take steps to stop the violence in the Middle Belt, stop Boko Haram or any other thing. Thirdly, Christians in Nigeria would want their support humanitarianly in terms of medications, in terms of clothes, and other such things, because as we speak, a lot of communities out there in the rural areas stay in the open. Food is a problem. Their children are no longer going to school. Medical facilities, they have no access to it because they don't have the wherewithal, the money, and so many other things. So these are the key things that Christians would want from the international community.
And if you could send a message directly to President Trump and his administration, which seems, is very sympathetic to this cause, what would you tell him? What would you say to him if you had the opportunity to speak with the president?
Well, I will tell him what many Christians here in Nigeria would love to tell him, that he should keep the pressure on Nigeria until the Nigerian government investigates the violence and make every Christian, every Nigerian safe, to feel safe in Nigeria. Nigerians in the past had called for designating Nigeria as a CPC state. We know that in the first term of President Trump, he designated Nigeria as a CPC state. The administration that came after him dropped it, and we're hearing that, oh well, senators or the State Department wants to redesignate Nigeria as a CPC state. I'm sure Christians in Nigeria will welcome it if it will make the government to sit up to its responsibility. Life is valuable, whether Christian or no Christian or anybody. Nigerians would want to feel safe anywhere they go within this country. So we would want to see that happen.
So that would be the first step to apply pressure to the government. Okay.
Yeah.
So another question. So many churches in the West and in America do international outreach. Have you seen support, on the congregational level, if not on the international level? Have you seen, you mentioned a lot of support from Christian groups. Have you seen that aid in sort of on a grassroots level in Nigeria from American or Western Christian churches?
I think we have seen a few that they have sent through NGOs and such other organizations, but because of the scale of the violence, it has not been enough. And like somebody was saying, well, we were seeing governments at the global level sending aids to Gaza and other countries, but Nigeria has been ignored. So would one.
That's a good point, right? Like, everyone's sending aid to Gaza. Meanwhile, they're like the richest people on the planet. I mean, just look at all the videos that come out. But in places that are actually war-torn, places where people actually need support and aid, completely ignored. I mean, this is the propaganda, right? This is how the Muslim Brotherhood, because again, you have to remember, Hamas is the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. So they're going to get support from Qatar and all these other Islamist groups. Of course, Al Jazeera is a mouthpiece for Hamas terrorists. So they're able to push their propaganda. And of course, you're going to see a lot of those propaganda bots in this chat as well, because they have nothing better to do. But, where's the outrage for Nigerians? Where are these people when Nigerians are being slaughtered by Christians? I'll tell you where they are. I'll tell you exactly what the Islamists are doing, because the Islamists always reveal their true colors. So let me just pull up my profile here, because I tweeted about this, because it's just absolutely sickening what's happening here. You see that? Oh, wait. Here we go. So do you see that? So Al Jazeera, who spent 2 years talking about the fake genocide in Gaza, okay, the fake genocide in Gaza, literally the fakest genocide in the world, is denying the Christian genocide in Nigeria. And then what they say is simplistic genocide claims fuel propaganda, right? So they have literally been crying genocide in Gaza for the last 2 years, but now when it comes to Muslims murdering Christians in Nigeria, all of a sudden it's complicated. It's complicated, guys. Oh no, there's nothing happening. Oh no, we have to worry about propaganda. They are the biggest liars. I mean, this is gaslighting. This is like Taqiyya 101. You are literally experiencing Takia 101, where they are gaslighting you and they expect you to just believe and follow along with it, right? Meanwhile, the images and videos are out there of Muslims in Nigeria literally massacring Christians just because they are Christian. It's insane.
A change of attitude, a change of direction by the international community or Christian organizations, for instance, to refocus their attention on Nigeria, especially in terms of a humanitarian aid. The situation is severe. Like I told you, children in these violent areas do not go to school. They don't have medical care, and food is a problem.
I also just wanted to give a shout out. I noticed a number of Nigerians who've joined us. I want to give you guys a shout out. I'm going to continue speaking about this tomorrow because I'm not going to finish all of my thoughts today, but I appreciate you guys being here. If there's anything that you want me to look more into or dig deeper into, feel free to, put it in the comments. Put the link in the comments to the live stream after the video, and I'll take a look at your comments because I do want to speak more about this. This is a very important issue. It also ties into Islamic colonialism and terrorism and expansionism in the Middle East. Like this is, like I said, directly linked to the Islamic Republic in Iran, which is occupying my country of Iran.
Clothing is a problem. So they would want to have that until when the situation ameliorates, when the international community forces the Nigerian government to say, hey, investigate this situation and let's see. Nigerians wouldn't mind if the United Nations too could come in, all right, and and see if they can join efforts with the Nigerian government and investigate the situation and punish the culprits, and so that the violence will stop. That is the problem, and that is the plea of Nigerians.
Do you feel like the Western media has ignored the issue?
We thank God that the Western media is waking up to its responsibility to search its light on what is going on in Nigeria, and we thank the News Nation for doing same. We are so grateful, and we hope that it will continue consistently. And we believe that if the Western media focuses attention on what is happening in Nigeria, it will wake the Nigerian government up to do something about the violence. We see a lot of videos by Americans, their media, talking openly about what is going on in Nigeria. Christians are very happy that their prayers are being answered by God, and that sooner than later, something good will come their way. So we thank you people very well.
You also mentioned, again, I just want to go back to it for a second, the schoolgirls, I think it was 276 schoolgirls in Nigeria who were kidnapped. I think you said it was it was in 2014, I believe, right? You mentioned that still over 80 of them still remain in captivity.
Exactly. Yes.
So guys, when they're in captivity, they're basically sex slaves, right? So again, this is the Islamist playbook. And what happened to those schoolgirls in 2014 is what these Islamic terrorists have been doing to various minorities, especially non-Muslim minorities around the Middle East and in fact around the world. I mean, look at the Yazidi genocide, where I think it was over 7,000 Yazidi women and girls were kidnapped, and they were used as sex slaves by ISIS terrorists because they believe in their religion that you can have slave girls as long as they're not Muslim. So, I mean, what you're seeing, this is the playbook of Islamic terrorism. This is not new. This is permitted. It is in their religion.
About 89 or 98 are still in captivity, and we are not hearing much from the government on what should be done to get those, those still in captivity back to their parents. Not much is heard about it. And there was an organization, Bring Back Our Girls, that came up to champion.
So to those people in the comments who are saying I'm lying and that this is not a part of Islam, guys, I always have receipts for everything that I say and do. And I mean, I could show you. And then that would make all of you feel incredibly awkward. But you know what? Maybe I will. Maybe I will show you, because then everyone in the chat can see how much you guys lie, right? Like all you do is lie, and you gaslight. So here, let me find it, because here you go. All right. I mean, since you guys asked for it, since you think I'm lying about whether or not sex slaves are permissible in Islam, all right, here you go. I mean, you asked for this, not me. So here's literally just like one guy, okay? And this is, by the way, this guy's in Britain. This guy is in Britain, okay? Just listen to what he has to say. Just listen to how casually he just throws in sex slaves in this conversation. I mean, the conversation itself is weird, but here, you don't believe me? Like, the extremists are telling you themselves, okay? They're telling you themselves that sex slavery is allowed in Islam.
Can a father change the nappy of his baby daughter? It's allowed, but it's not the normal, suitable way or role of the father. It should be done by the mother, and that is obviously part of their own haya, their own modesty and the shyness. But if there are other women, of course, it's better for them. Sister, mother, mother-in-law, grandmother, auntie, whoever. If there's somebody else, it's better for them, inshallah. Okay, or slave girl. Nowadays, we can start to return to some of the many other ahkam in Islam which have been absent for many years. Because now we have khilafah, we can have slave girls in the khilafah. Can a father change the nappy of his baby?
Did you guys catch that? Did you see how casually he just threw in, oh, maybe the slave girl can change the baby's diapers because, and this is the scary part. This is the very scary part, guys. So this guy's in Britain, and then, he says we can start to return to some of the other rulings of Islam because we have a caliphate in the United Kingdom. Believe me, guys, I'm going to get to this video, but what he's saying is literally in the Quran. Like it's a part of the religion. Sex slavery has been a major part of Islam and Islamic conquest. That's why ISIS terrorists took Yazidi women as sex slaves. That's why the Islamists in Nigeria took Nigerian Christian schoolgirls as sex slaves. So to anyone who says, I'm lying, here you go. This is the proof. This is the proof yourselves. You can go do research and you can find it yourselves. But I'm telling you, everything I say, I have receipts. So do not come into my comments and accuse me of lying when the internet is free. And you can find this information out there. So here, I'll repeat it one more time because it's not me saying it. It's them. The extremists are the ones who are saying it.
Okay, or slave girl. Nowadays, we can start to return to some of the many other ahkam in Islam which have been absent for many years. Because now we have khilafah, we can have slave girls in the khilafah. Can a father change the nappy of his baby daughter?
Lovely, 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 lovely people. Anyways, let's go back. So we're going to go back to speak about
over 80 of them.
So again, the stolen schoolgirls, right? The Christian schoolgirls who were stolen by Islamists. They weren't just captured as slaves; they were literally captured as sex slaves, because that's what happens.
Still remain in captivity.
Exactly. Yes. About 89 or 98 are still in captivity. And we are not hearing much from the government on what should be done to get those, those still in captivity back to their parents. Not much is heard about it. And there was an organization, Bring Back Our Girls, that came up to champion or to pressurize the Nigerian government to rescue these girls. We don't have much about it. Not so much is being talked about these girls. Probably Nigerians are fatigued about it, tired of talking about it because nothing is being done about it. And again, in the issue of Leah Sharibu, um, who was also abducted in 2018, nothing has been heard about it. It is quiet everywhere. So if the Western media can also help us bring those issues up, the Chibok girl and the Leah Sharibu issue, I think it would be a welcome idea.
Yeah, for sure. And the Chibok girls, when it happened, was major news. But
Yeah.
you know, the media has sort of dropped that story. And do you believe? Is there any information about how we believe, like, is what the status of those girls is?
Well, not so much for people like me, but I want to believe that the government knows about it. They have apparatus, the security agencies, they should know. And we believe that they are still alive, right? And Leah Sharibu, we understand, was forced to marry one of the commanders after the first one died, and that she has two kids so far. So we have not heard anything about them again, including the Chibok girls. I've not heard about that, but government knows much about it.
And how much of a hold does Boko Haram have in Nigeria in general? Can you give us an update on that?
Well, the epicenter is the northeast. That is where they are operating. But sometime between 2000 and I think 2012 and 2015, they now spread their tentacles, which has given birth to the bandits in the northwest and the Fulani militants in the middle belt. That is how they spread their tentacles, and they are operating. These are like their foot soldiers. So Boko Haram is still very much in existence. They are still operating in the northeast, bombing places, military establishments, kidnapping civilians, snatching women, including married women, and killing civilians. They are still strong, and the government is not doing much. Government is not doing much.
Yeah, and the media is not reporting on it much either, which is, certainly a problem. So how can people who are listening to this help? What can people at home do to help the vulnerable Christian population in Nigeria?
Well, I will repeat again that one prayer, and that Nigerians should remain resilient, okay, and they should not give up, all right, and individuals in the West should speak to their representatives to make their governments act and pressurize the Nigerian government, like I said before. And I believe if the West gets up and talk to the Nigerian government will really wake up to its responsibilities, because from what we have seen now, when they receive the information about this bill that is before the Congress, it has rattled the Nigerian government. And we believe that if the government goes ahead, the Western government goes ahead like the US, if it goes ahead with the bill or with the pressure, it is very likely that the Nigerian government will do something, and and make this violence to subside or to even stop.
And Jabez, before we go, what is your prayer to God about this situation? What do you ask God before you go to bed at night? This is obviously a big part of what you do, and an issue that's really impacting your community and the larger Christian community in Nigeria. What's your prayer to God?
My prayer, just like any other Nigerian Christian that is going through these devastating moments, is that God should protect us every night as we go to bed, and He should also protect those people in the village areas who are very, very vulnerable, because the militants go in their hundreds on motorbikes and with their fellow attackers behind them, holding AK-47. They wheel them. They go to the communities that they want to attack, and they first pronounce Allahu Akbar. They pour petrol on their houses.
Did you hear that? And I've warned you guys about this before. So, you know, like normal Muslims don't just walk around yelling Allahu Akbar. Islamic extremists do it right before they want to engage in a terrorist attack. And this guy just said they yell Allahu Akbar before they like pour gasoline and start burning Christian homes. Like it's insane. It's insane that people are ignoring this. The patterns are there. It's been the same pattern of violent Islamic oppression and colonization for the last 1400 years. Guys, even like even people, you know, even like the Hamas terrorists and even Palestinian civilians, when Hamas terrorists were driving by with Israeli hostages, or even with the corpses of Israelis, Palestinian civilians were yelling Allahu Akbar. Like it's insane. Even in that video, and I showed this video in my stream last week Friday, which shows Hamas killing Palestinian civilians. Even when they're killing their own people, there are other Palestinians who surround them and, you know, film, and they're all happy and they're yelling Allahu Akbar while they're murdering their own people. This is how Islamic jihadis think, right? Like this is not normal, rational behavior. This is like that jihadi, Islamofascist, terrorist behavior, and it happens all over. It happens all over. Here, let me go back so you can listen to that again.
He should also protect those people in the village areas who are very, very vulnerable, because the militants go in their hundreds on motorbikes and with their fellow attackers behind them, holding AK-47. They wheel them. They go to the communities that they want to attack, and they first pronounce Allahu Akbar. They pour petrol on their houses or kerosene, and they lit fire on it. And when the communities see that their houses are being burned, they run out and they shoot them with the gun. That is what is happening. And so we are praying that governments the world over should wake up to its responsibility. And let me go back from what I said from the beginning. The root cause of some of these problems that we're having in Nigeria, I mentioned that it is Sharia law that was introduced.
Boom. See? He even says it. The root cause of the violence in Nigeria is Sharia law. And like I explained to you, like I showed you earlier, there is that link between the Islamic Republic occupying Iran and what's currently happening in Nigeria, because it's that Islamic expansionist mindset. It is that colonialism. It is the desire for the Islamists to bring Sharia law to Nigeria and take over, right? It's the same playbook, and it happens everywhere. So let's go back, because that part is critical.
See that their houses are being burned, they run out and they shoot them with the gun. That is what is happening. And so we are praying that governments the world over should wake up to its responsibility. And let me go back from what I said from the beginning. The root cause of some of these problems that we're having in Nigeria, I mentioned that it is Sharia law that was introduced because Sharia facilitates violence. It promotes violence.
Did you hear what he said? Sharia facilitates violence. Sharia promotes violence. And it's true. It's true. Anyone who's been a victim of Islamic terrorism can tell you that. Us Iranians who have been living under an Islamic dictatorship for 47 years. We have been living in a Sharia nightmare for 47 years. 100%. I'm telling you, Sharia law promotes violence. Sharia law is violence. You can ask any Iranian who isn't affiliated with the Islamic Republic will tell you the exact same thing, because we have lived it, and people in Nigeria are starting to wake up to that fact, right? Because Nigeria, thankfully, for now, is still not controlled by Sharia law the way that Iran is controlled by Sharia law and the Islamic Republic.
Mob action, all right? And indeed, it has an international link. Some years back in the Middle East, we had ISIS or Al-Qaeda, but when the US dislodged them in the Middle East, a branch of them came to West Africa, and they promised to have a hegemony in West Africa, which they are doing. So the Boko Haram, the military, the Fulani militants, the bandits are a product of ISIS, which they are enforcing and translating. And it is all about violence. And that is why we now see Boko Haram in the northeast, acts of banditry in the northwest, and violence, devastating violence in the middle belt. And we are seeing that the violence is gradually moving southward of Nigeria, to the southwest and to the southeast, and perhaps the south-south. Nigeria is fairly large, maybe not as large as the US, but we see it as large in terms of African context. So unless something is done quickly, it may engulf the entire country. I think the international community made a mistake when ISIS and Al-Qaeda relocated to West Africa. They ignored it, and this is the consequences that we are going through today. So that is our prayer, that the world will wake up, like we are seeing, the world is beginning to, wake up from its slumber, and then help Nigeria. And helping Nigeria is very strategic, because the population that Nigeria has and the danger of allowing Nigeria to explode, it will affect other West African countries. No country in the West African coast or region is as populated as Nigeria. And so there will be a humanitarian crisis. And so the earlier the international community understands this, the better it will be for the world itself.
Okay, so a critical moment for Nigeria, but also Western Africa and all of Africa. Jabez, we thank you so much for all this conversation. I hope that our viewers will learn.
So I want to play one more video, and then I'll end the live stream here, because there's a lot of information to process, and I have a lot more to talk about, because now that we have sort of established the foundation for the violence in Nigeria, we've obviously heard testimony from someone who has experienced it, who is living it, and who's called it out for what it is. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the link. We're going to go in depth. I know I touched upon it a little bit, but I only did to kind of give you guys a bit of an understanding, and also so that you guys can appreciate that when I say this is linked to the Islamic Republic in Iran, I have all the receipts, I have all the facts, I have all the proof. But that is something that we need to dig into much deeper, which we will do tomorrow. So I do want to end off with one video. This is from I guess he's who is he? He's a pastor, and this video was put out yesterday. So he has received intelligence that the Fulani militias, again, the Islamic terrorist militias, are getting ready to come back and slaughter even more Nigerian Christians. So this video was put out yesterday. For me, it's difficult to watch. It's really hard to watch, knowing that this is going on and no one is doing anything about it and no one is speaking out about it. And in fact, there are people who are trying to deny the Christian genocide. in Nigeria right now. So let's watch this, and then we will continue. We'll continue tomorrow.
Earlier. Already, they have declared war on Plateau. As I'm talking to you, yesterday we buried in the night 1 corpse, and they killed 2 people again. This morning that I'm telling you, come and see Fulani terrorists were invited from Bauchi, other places. I was able to have a report from the insider, and the man spoke, and it comes to true. This morning, as I'm talking to you, they are trooping into Doroa. They're outside behind Doroa into Nyarwe village of Fan. Now, what do you want us to do? We are going to defend ourselves today. I was just coming from sector. I rushed to sector, but I didn't see the commander. At the same time, the 2IC said the unit of Doroha side didn't give them report. My pastor in the village of Nyarwe, he has called me right now that the armies have withdrawn, which means something is wrong somewhere. All the youths in Nigeria, in Plateau State, Christian, if you are really a Christian, be on your knees, pray for us. We are going to defend ourselves to death. Imagine us visiting Ruga. We don't have that spirit. We don't have that mind. We are not wicked. We are not terrorists, and we will never be. But look at them, they are trying to enter our village now. I was just coming from the sector. As I've said, now I will troop in. I will go there. Even when some people are saying that I should not be there, I will be there with my people, because right here they are in the bush. They have arrived from Bauchi to cause confusion. Now I thank the 2IC to the commandant. He's mobilizing his men. They're saying they're going, because nobody gave the report from that unit. Then they should hold the Nigerian army that are in that unit, whether police or joint task force. They should hold their responsibility, because all the armies that are in that unit, they were 6, but they have withdrawn. Why? And there was no report to the sector command. Something is fishy. They are gambling with Nigerians. Please pray for me. If I die today, let it be, because I can't leave my people there. I'm going there. Pray for us. We will stand and defend ourselves to death by the power of Jesus. Now, already, 2 corpses are on the ground. We have not buried them. And the Fulani are chanting. They have the freedom to do what they have, because their leader, Yahya Jingri, have already said, giving command to the security, they should never arrest any Fulani. And they are obeying his command. What are we going to do? Self-defense. All villages, I will use this medium. All villages, the youth stand back. Rise up with anything that you have in your position to defend the children, the women that are pregnant, the old men that cannot run. Stand and do something. We are in a nation that Nigeria have already sold out. The Supreme Court have already passed death sentence of that man in Adamawa. And look at what they have done. Because the man was defending his land, his crops. In that Eden, the Fulani man died. They have passed a sentence, so which means no Christian should react. No Christian. The Supreme Court of Nigeria have already passed death sentence on us. We should never defend ourselves. God, who is living in heaven, he will send his angels. They will stand by us by the power of Jesus Christ. Amen. Keep on praying for me. Keep on praying for my people, because I'm back from India and I'm ready. If it is the place that I will die, let me die with my people. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And all the Christians that claim the assault of the earth, but they have lost their saltiness. No Christian is talking. Even those in Asoro, they are silenced. Even the bishop, they are silenced. The overseers are silenced. The leaders are silenced, because they have lost their saltiness. and they are against Jesus Christ directly, that said, we are the salt of the earth, and we have to preserve the nation from decaying. We are to preserve. We are also to make the nation grow in a healthy way. We are to release peace. That is the nature of a true Christian. Since the Christian that cannot speak, can is silence, because they are deaf people spiritually. Their mindset is dead. Their conscience is dead. They don't have people at heart. They don't care to voice out what is happening in Nigeria. Why? Because they have sold their birthright. They have become Iswa. Iswa has sold his birthright to Jacob. And this is what is happening right here in Nigeria. Keep on praying for me. I've chosen to die than to live, to be performing burial every day. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, our Savior. Keep on praying for us. God is going to be with us.
Wow. Powerful words. And I really resonate with the desperation in his voice. I think a lot of Iranians watching resonate with the desperation in his voice, because there are countless of videos of Iranians inside of occupied Iran who have spoken out with that same tone, with that same desperate tone, where they know that they are in a battle for their lives. They are fighting Islamic extremism. They are fighting Islamic terrorism. They are trying to get their message out to the world, and no one is paying attention. No one is listening. No one cares. So yeah, like it's incredibly powerful, and it resonates. It resonates with those of us who have been victims of Islamic extremism. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot more to say, but I think that's a good place to end it for now. Pray for Nigeria. Pray for Nigerian Christians. Pray for all Nigerians who are victims of Islamic terrorism, regardless of religion. And, you know, hopefully we'll have some good news tomorrow. I pray, but I mean, I'll be monitoring everything. You know, let's see what happens. And again, I'm going to continue speaking about this tomorrow, because again, the violence in Nigeria is linked back to the Islamic Republic occupying Iran. And unless and until the Islamic Republic is overthrown, we're going to continue seeing this sort of violence, not just in Nigeria, but in many other countries that are victims of Islamic colonization. Thank you, everyone, for joining. If you liked my stream, please make sure that you like and subscribe. And I will see you all tomorrow at 12 noon for my next live stream. پاینده ایران جاوید شاه.